Good evening. Joining us tonight is James Kenning, captain of sailing yacht Kyla, a Regina 43 sailboat. James has done what most only dream about, sailed to many countries of the world and counting, a life powered by wind, determination, and adventure. We're about to dive into what it really takes to chase the horizon and live the dream. But first, if everybody would please like, subscribe, and share. It really helps us bring you more incredible sailing stories if you do that. I'm Captain Tinsley of Sailing Vessel Salty Abandon and Island Packet 320, and this is the Salty Podcast, episode 61. Welcome, James.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I found you on Instagram, right?
That's right. Yeah, I've got a presence there.
Okay, you got a presence there. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You're obviously not from the United States, so tell the folks where you're from.
So I'm British, born and bred. I hit the big 60 this month, which is a little bit frightening. I'm sure no one will believe it looking at this youthful face.
That's right. I would never have guessed.
But in those years, my formative time, I was Royal Air Force and then contracting. I first started sailing in a fairly traditional way, and my dad taught me to sail dinghies. I used to sail with him, but I was soon going to become an orphan, so I went solo, raced. And then when I went to university, I pretty much stopped sailing. It just sort of dropped off my radar.
Now, where did you do this sailing?
So I grew up in Oxford, which is the university town.
Right in the middle of the country.
Right in the middle of the country. And my first introduction to sailing was on a small gravel pit that had been flooded. And it was called Dorchester Sailing Club.
Oh, wow. Sailing
So
really
I
literally can be everywhere.
Started very small.
Okay. All right. And I know you went to the Air Force, the Royal Air Force.
So I was commissioned in the Royal Air Force. Did 17 years in that, and towards the end, took up sailing again, and basically had one holiday chartering a boat, knowing nothing about big boats. It was a 34 Bavaria, I think, that we chartered, and to me then it was a big boat. No one had told me anything about prop walk or these sorts of things, and they just let us go with it. And so it was quite a stressful week, learning how not to do things. And then from there, caught the bug, got back into the sailing bug, a number of years chartering, and then it would be in 2018, decided to go into self-induced bankruptcy by buying our Kyla. And she's been sucking me dry of money ever since.
So tell us about our Kyla.
So our Kyla, she's a Regina 43. She's from a small Swedish yard, which not many will have probably heard of. But if you think Marlow, Hallberg Rassy, it's of that ilk. She's a sturdy deck saloon. She's called a 43. The marina will charge me 46 foot. Waterline length is closer to 39. But she's good. She's a deck saloon. She's fairly bulletproof.
You've got some great pictures. You're a photographer, right?
Well, hobbyist photographer.
Obviously.
I sort of make a few scraps of money selling pictures to some of the yachting magazines. But yeah, I'm not a professional by any means. But
I'm gonna while you're talking and describing your boat, I'm just gonna put some up here because that is a beautiful boat.
So she is. I mean, she gets a lot of comments whenever we go places. She's Solent rigged. She's got a very very flexible rig, so that inner sail is a self-tacking jib, so really good for short-handed, especially if you're going anywhere into the wind.
Right.
On the front there, I have twin Genoas, which is my downwind rig when I'm not using a parasailer. And then a furling mainsail, which I swear at just about every time I try and get it in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one of those too. Wait, this isn't your boat, is it? Is that your boat?
Kyla. That is actually just a month or so ago, and it's a charter vessel called Rhea, which operates with a sister ship Kronos in and around the Caribbean at the moment.
I love that picture.
That's not our Kyla either, but
no, but it's a beautiful picture.
my big love in photography is actually wildlife photography.
Okay, I think I do have a question about that.
It's really an easier thing to take because you know they're going to be there. But given the choice, I'd be out in the field trying to capture wildlife if I could. If I could do my life all over again, then as a career, I would like to have been a wildlife photographer.
Well, this is a beautiful picture of your boat. Is that a Taca-Cat?
That is, yeah.
I have one of those. I love those.
It's True Kit from New Zealand.
Right.
Very pleased with it.
Me too. And I like it because when I do a crossing, like of the Gulf, I like to pack it up in the 2 bags and put it inside the boat.
Absolutely. You know, if I'm doing an offshore passage, then I don't keep her on the davits at the back. She's packed up and goes in the bow.
Yeah. Because who wants it swinging around back there?
Yeah. I mean, it beats me why people would want to do that.
Yeah, it seems like it wouldn't be good for the davits.
And this is us. The boat has just been hauled in the last couple of weeks. She's out in Grenada for hurricane season now.
Is this after? It looks like you just had the bottom done. It's so clean.
Well, she has been jet washed, but the bottom is copper coated, which is one of the best investments I think I've made on the boat.
Tell me about that. What is that?
So copper coated, it's a hard resin based Antifoul, which gets applied on, and theoretically it should hopefully last 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't stop growth. It mostly stops any hard growth. But you still, you know, certainly in the Caribbean, in warm waters, every couple of weeks you need to dive down and take a brush to it to get.
So do barnacles, are they able to attach themselves? Is that what you mean by hard growth?
Yeah. So I get very little hard growth. I do need to reactivate it. There's starting to get a little bit of growth on her.
It looks very shiny. I'm so jealous. It looks, I've got some hull envy. Wow, it's beautiful. Oh, of course, I love this picture.
Yeah, I mean, the Swedes, they know how to build boats. You know, they build good-looking boats. The inside of them, the craftsmanship is just unbelievable. I mean, the screen behind me is a shot of the lower saloon in the boat and the galley, and it's just wood everywhere.
It's beautiful,
and it's just very, very high quality. You know, it doesn't creak like maybe some of the, you know, sort of med intended boats like your production Bavarias or Genots or Beneteaus.
Right. And I do not have a production boat, so I can appreciate that. This is a wonderful shot. Is this done with the drone?
No, I actually got my crew to be riding the other dolphin backwards just in front of that.
What?
Yeah, clearly I'm lying. No, this is using one of the Insta360 cameras, so it's a GoPro Max. And the way I get these shots is, rather than trying to take a picture, is I will put it onto video.
Right.
and then record it, and then hopefully you end up getting a shot like this where the animal is in the right position, you're in the right position, the sail's drawing. And then it does take an element of post-processing, because you have to try and make a video still, better quality. So,
What a great shot. Let's see if there's any more. Nope, that's it. So okay. All right. So you got our Kyla. You bought her in 2018. Is that right?
yeah. So end of the season 2018.
And where?
So she was bought in a little river mouth called the Yelm on the south coast of Britain, and I then took her back from we took her back from the Yelm, which is close to Plymouth, to her home where we kept her for a couple of years in the Solent. But that was it for 2018. Basically, she then got hauled out for the English weather, and I know a lot of the American listeners will be, especially those in the South, will be wondering, why'd you haul a boat? Well, if you lived in the UK, you'd know why, because it can be pretty bloody miserable weather.
They do that in, say, Michigan, and
Yeah.
So,
So 2019 was really first year we started sailing her. It was also a year where we were discovering that all the systems that we thought were good probably weren't quite as good as the broker had told us. We had to replace all the sails, all the new electronics, because we got the blue screen of death on the chart plotters, putting in upgraded anchor, all those sorts of things. So that first year, 2019, of sailing didn't really even get out of the Solent, which is one of the most popular sailing areas in the UK, but not really my idea of where to sail. It's busy. There aren't that many anchoring opportunities. So yeah, it was itching to get out and wider. The next year, of course, we were hit by a little thing called Brexit in the UK, and because of all the tax rules regarding VAT, made the decision to put the boat into France, so sailed across to Cherbourg. But this is now during COVID, so again the sailing opportunities were few and far between. And then the following year, when I brought our Kyla back into the UK, because everyone had bought a boat in the UK, there was nowhere to put her. So I did a season sailing up and down the southwest coast, which has got some beautiful areas, along the west coast. But then nowhere to put her, so she had to be hauled out again. And at that stage, just decided, let's go to the sun. So the following season, the boat was prepped to cross Biscay, go down the Portuguese coast, and hang in the Algarve, which I think that must be 2022.
Okay. Okay. So how did you get to the Caribbean?
So in between.
Well, I guess first of all, tell me the countries you went to in the Mediterranean.
So I've chartered a lot in the Med and loved it, especially the Greek islands.
Right.
But also really liked the Balearics, so Mallorca, Ibiza, Formentera, Menorca.
Greek islands. I'm going to pull that up.
So the original intent was to take the boat into the Med and hang around in there for a while, but Brexit made it very difficult with regards to UK flagged boats being there, even with EU VAT. And so toing and froing, as to whether or not to stay there. But in the Balearics, which again I chartered there a number of years earlier, really loved the cruising area, but it had got incredibly busy.
Am I close to it here on the map?
So you're hanging over Greek. So if you put your arrow up a little bit below Corfu, across, go left, down, and you get to. So you've got those are the Ionian Islands.
Oh, okay.
And that they're a wonderful, really relaxed, easy cruising area. But because for British flag boats, it was looking fairly difficult in terms of the bureaucracy that was going to get involved. And because
and what is that? What were they?
They were insisting that every time you go to a different port, you have to go into an office and renew your transit log. It was just going to be difficult.
Okay. Your transit log.
So a transit log is what you have to buy if you're visiting a yacht into Greek waters. And it was going to start getting expensive. People weren't quite sure how they were implementing the rules. It was potentially a bit of a risk. So I decided not to bother going any further from the Balearics and to turn around, head back out through Orca Alley, and head to the Caribbean.
Ah.
So the route out of the Med, I'd wintered the boat in Valencia, which was a wonderful place to be. I mean, it's a fantastic city. It's got two marinas. I was in the northern one, which was originally built and developed for the America's Cup.
Okay.
And very handy for getting to the Balearic Islands. So Valencia to Ibiza was sort of about a 14-hour sail, and to go across to say Sola in Mallorca would be 24 hours. So really handy for that. But the thing with the Med is they often say you either have too much wind or you don't have any at all. And that is very true. So when it came to getting the boat out towards the Canaries to start the Caribbean push,
right,
basically all the way from Valencia to Gibraltar was pretty much a motor. It was fairly soul destroying.
And how long does that take? You said.
I think we did that in the space of 3 weeks.
Wow.
As I said, either the wind was blowing 25 knots directly on the nose, or there was none at all. So there was a lot of hanging around in some of the ports. There's very few anchorages that along that entire sort of Spanish coast. So you have to go into marinas. So there's a lot of hanging around in marinas.
That's fun too, though, isn't it?
I mean, I prefer anchorages myself. I prefer to drop the hook. My wallet prefers anchorages.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, so we made our way through places like Cartagena, and then through to Gibraltar. And I mean, I imagine a number of your listeners and viewers will have heard of the orca problem in and around the Straits of Gibraltar. There's
probably, but I haven't. So tell me.
So there is a particular group of orcas. They're called the Iberian orca. They're a subset of the wider orca killer whale.
Oh,
There's about 30 of them in this pod, and since COVID, they started a habit of attacking the rudders of yachts.
oh my goodness.
So over that time, I think about 5 yachts have been sunk.
Right in here?
So they migrate with the tuna, and it's seasonal where the tuna is. So they start off in the Straits of Gibraltar there, and then they work their way up the coast towards the Bay of Biscay. So you can't fully be sure ever where they are, and your only real defence is to try and stay shallow. You try and stay within the 20-meter contour, which is a little problematic around the sailing in this area because you get a lot of fishing pots. So it means that you effectively have to travel by day. So you have to do it to go from Gibraltar to Portimao or Lagos on the southwestern tip of Portugal. You really need sort of 5 days to do that, or you take the risk of going in deep water. But those are the yachts that get attacked, and I say that 5 have been sunk, hundreds have been attacked and had their rudders disabled.
That is incredible.
It's a very big issue.
Okay, well that's I had asked you if you had any pirate stories. That's a pretty good story right there. That's a good tip of the day on the Salty Podcast, is to watch out for the
Yes. So there's a lot of support networks out there now as well. There's one website called orca.pt, and they show heat maps of where they think the orcas are, because scientists are studying them. I'm a member of the Cruising Association, which it's open to all worldwide, but it is a UK based in its headquarters. They have an orca team, and they've been doing studies trying to correlate and find solutions so that neither boats or the orcas, because they are an endangered species, they are protected.
Right. Can't mess with them.
Get harmed. But there are key areas where you can almost be certain that if you sail through there, you're going to get hit. Particularly if you look at Tarifa there, that's marked on the map. Just to the west of that, you've got the Bay of Barbati. You have Barbati, and offshore there is where you get some of the highest concentrations of the orca.
Now you said they follow the tuna, so is that seasonal?
Yes. So sort of in the early season, around sort of April, May, they tend to be in the strait there.
Okay.
And then as the season progresses, the tuna move up north, and the orca tend to move up with them.
And so then another place is a hot spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it tends to be there's 30 odd individuals in this group of orca, and it's 14 individuals that have been identified as what we think is just playing games. No one knows for sure, but they think it's a way to alleviate boredom. There's all sorts of theories. And there's all sorts of theories as to how to deter them. You know, some people say drop sand over your stern because it disrupts their sonar, because they go in under sonar.
Right.
Fishermen use firecrackers, though that's theoretically illegal.
Right.
The best thing to do, according to the scientists, is transit through there under engine, and if and when they do come up alongside you, and if they bump you or you have an incident with them, engine on full and just head if you can to the shallows.
Okay. Well, this is a first for me. I mean, I've never taken my boat over here, but that's good information. So you came out of here and you went up to
So I was looking for the
Because this is
the
the
safest or the least chance of meeting orca. So I
yeah.
decided to push for the Canaries from that's
Is that
southwest
right here?
tip of Portugal, so Portimao, and
Tell
waited
me
for.
if I'm on the right track here. Can you
I
I
can't
know that
see a map at the moment.
oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I can try.
Okay, so can you see it now?
Okay, so go take your pointer to Lisbon and go south,
Okay.
and
Closer in or
okay. Do you see Albufeira?
yes?
Okay, go to the west of Albufeira
Okay.
on really on that.
Trajectory.
No. Sorry, you're right into the middle of the Atlantic now. So still on the that Portuguese coast. If you zoom in, more or less where you are now. So you have Lagos and Portimao, and that is where I decided to stage from. Um,
Okay.
and so the first 70 miles, 70 nautical miles or so were the ones where we're on high alert, really
Okay.
looking to
And
make sure that we weren't going to be.
forgive my ignorance, but I'm trying to find the Canary Islands now. So
So there you go. Funchal, that is Madeira, which I'd originally hoped to go to, but because I missed out on because of the weather windows, failed to get there. So I had to miss that, and instead, if you head south, zoom out and head south, then these are the Canary Islands, and
okay.
went into Arrecife.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, on Lanzarote, which is a very barren, um,
Yeah, looks it.
volcanic island, but spectacular scenery.
Okay. And did you anchor here?
So again, the Canary Islands aren't really known for their anchorages. There
Okay.
are anchorages, but um, I was on the timeline. I went into Arrecife, and then from Arrecife, um, I then did a passage to go to Gran Canaria and Las Palmas, where I left the boat um, for a couple of months until waiting for my November departure with
Okay.
the Arc Plus rally.
Okay. And then you went across?
And then, yeah, but we went down via the Cape Verde Islands. Uh, so there you go. And you want to look for Salvacente and Mindelo. So Mindelo is the main yachting base of the Cape Verdes. It's got a good marina there. It has a chandlery. So when boats do go in there and they're broken, and quite often they will be, um, you do get a good chance of fixing things in there.
What's the depth around here? Looks pretty deep.
So I mean the depth it's probably around in the deep areas 3,000 meters.
Wow.
You do on your way down. You do have to be wary though of occasionally there are some seamounts where you may not be going to run aground on them, but they could certainly throw up nasty waves and seas on them. So we were talking about going down into Lanzarote in the Canaries, and if you just head north again, zoom into Lanzarote. So you want to go east to Arrecife, and then you can just see there where the shelf comes up. There are it comes up very rapidly, and there are a couple of seamounts that can get you unawares if you're not zooming in on your chart plotter.
Sea mounts. Okay. Wow. Okay. So you hung out here, you went home for a while, and then How did you make it all the way over here?
So so we should probably head back to the 900-mile passage from Las Palmas down to Mindelo, because that was not without incident.
Okay.
And on the second night out, my parasailer, which I'd only had since picking it up in Gibraltar, the weather forecast was not as it promised, and in trying to get it down in the middle of the night, it did come down. We lost the halyard out of the mast
Oh.
winch, and it dropped in the ocean, ripped to shreds.
Oh.
Nearly took 3 fingers of mine up the mast sheath, but fortunately got that out of the way just in time. But that lost us our main downwind sail. So, but fortunately, my reserve is I have twin Genoas, which are permanently fixed onto my front stay, and that's what we then used. Which, when we had wind, it's an excellent rig. I mean, it's stable, it's fast, but our Kyla's she's a sturdy girl. She's pretty hefty, and if you've got less than 12 knots of wind, they just flap and bang, and I winced every time. I could see the anti-chafe strips coming apart. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do then?
So we got into well, the first thing we had to do was recover this stricken sail, which took us nearly 2 hours drifting, 25 knots of wind. Eventually we got it out of the ocean, and we unceremoniously dumped it down into the forward cabin. So we had a rearrangement of the crew quarters, and then we continued along. At this stage, we didn't quite know what the damage was on the sail. Sort of later in the trip, we went in and had a look at it, and it was beyond repair. So shed a few tears at that.
What did you do?
Not so much for the fact that I'd killed the parasailer, but for the fact that how were we going to, get across the Atlantic without it, especially if we had light airs. But when we came to leaving, basically we pulled out the twin Genoas, and we set those. Our course was determined on which way was exactly downwind, and we stayed like that for 2,200 miles basically, and took the pole down about 30 miles off Grenada.
Okay, let me pull
when
it
we
back
had a
up.
very frustrating low wind scenario of trying to do that last few miles.
So here it is. So you're right here.
So we're right here,
and now you are.
And we move into Grenada, which is the southern, pretty much there we go, Grenada.
Here we go.
However,
you came in there. You came in. There's always however.
So we went direct to Grenada.
So you went from here down. Now somebody was asking me the other day, and I haven't made this trip, so I don't know. I may someday. Who knows? But so when you're coming this way, what is the rule? Like, I know that a lot of when they go back, they go this way, right?
Yeah. So boats leave. Typically, you don't want to leave earlier than November, December, and the later you leave it into, I mean, some people go across in January and February because that's when the trade winds are better established. But even if you were going direct from the Canaries and not doing a stop in the Cape Verdes, you would still, the wisdom is to go south. And the saying is go south until the butter melts.
Yeah, I've heard
which is
that.
basically a which stage where it's pretty much around the latitude of the Cape Verdes, and
Okay.
that's where the trade winds you hope kick in.
Okay. And then you pretty much kind of go this way.
Well, no, so you're on the Canaries there, and what you want to do is you want to actually drop south. So you'd be looking to drop south towards the Cape Verdes, and
Okay,
then you
I'm
make
sorry.
your
That's what I was thinking you were
yeah,
saying. But okay,
and then
you're
you make your westing.
okay. And so you're basically going, I don't know what that heading is, but
I mean, you go west
south,
basically,
is it southwest?
where it's pretty much west
Okay.
because you've taken a southern leg to start with to till your butter starts melting.
Okay.
Once you then go, you're almost on a due west course.
Gotcha.
You don't have to worry about great circles, routes. At that latitude, there's very little in it, so you just point for your target.
Okay, so how far you said it was 2,200 miles?
2,200, I think, is as the crow flies.
How long did that take you?
Well, that I think we got across in 14 days, all under sail.
Okay.
What did
Oh,
happen though
no motor?
was, sorry,
No motor?
no motor.
Wow,
Um,
nice.
what did happen was literally midway, um, we had a rudder issue, and
Ah,
first noticed that the rudder stock had dropped in the transom void. So we still had steerage, but we didn't know what had happened or what the damage was. There was a little bit of water ingress. So we jury rigged up the rudder to stabilize it. We got pumps ready. We went through all of our water ingress procedures. We tried to slow the boat, so we reefed her fully down, and we ended up speeding up. So we're doing 8.5 knots, and
wow.
still under our head.
And
twin
what were
headsails.
the winds?
We were probably having sort of 15 to 20 knots mostly until the last day.
So we have this is Hayden of SV Island Spirit, and he said what caused the halyard failure?
Well, it wasn't a halyard failure. It came out of the winch jaws. So we'd gone up to try and bring the sail down to put the snuffer over it, and something happened. It got knocked, and it just came out with jaws, and that was it. It was under such load because we had about 20-25 knots of wind at the time. It just shot off instantly.
Okay, and he also asks, oh, he comments on your 14 days. So is that fast? Is that a
Well,
fast?
I mean, we weren't the fastest boat.
Yeah.
We weren't the slowest. I mean, by handicap, our Kyla was I think the 9th slowest boat out of the fleet of 96, and we finished, even with our rudder issue and not having our parasailer, 44. But on handicap, we came in 5th.
Okay.
So
So I would say an island packet probably has a handicap too, right? Because it's not going to win any races.
yeah.
And SV Island Spirit, these guys also are in a island packet 35. So he's also a boat broker, so I bet he knows your boat type.
Yeah, but bear in mind, that's 14 days. That's not from the Canaries.
Right.
That's from Mindelo in the Cape Verdes.
Right.
So typically, you would probably expect, a decent cruising boat to get across in 2 weeks from the Cape Verdes. If you were going from direct from the Canary Islands, from Gran Canaria, you'd be looking at probably closer to 3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. So how long did it take you to get to the Cape Verdes?
That I think was well, it was 900 miles. I think we did that in
And that was from
6 days, maybe.
okay, from the Canaries.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from Portugal to the
So
Canaries.
Portugal
Canaries.
to Lanzarote.
And that's Canaries, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that was 4 days,
Okay.
and I think that was off the top of my head, I think it was about 800 miles. But no, it could have been 800 miles if we did. We don't do 200 miles days, but the fastest day I did was 180 miles,
Wow.
which was good. You know,
Wow.
that was when we had the wind right up the stern. We had the twin Genoas out. We probably had about 20, 25 knots. We were going in the right direction. It was a good feeling.
Okay. All right. So you made it into Grenada or Grenada.
Made it into Grenada. Very happy. But then arranged to have a haul out because we didn't really know what was wrong with the rudder. Hauled the boat out. Looked at it. The engineer said, "Yeah, okay. Don't think this is too much of an issue." And we were back in the water in a couple of days. The next day, however, I was getting a lot of water. We were leaking about a litre an hour. So we hauled out again and had a closer look, and we had a crack on the skeg.
Oh.
And the engineer, once he'd looked at everything, and we'd also had a split all the way up the leading edge of the rudder, and so there was an open crack on the port side of the skeg and a compression crack on the starboard. He said the only thing that really could have done that was a whale impact. So that at this stage, I said this to one of the crew I had on board. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember having a big jolt when I was on the helm," which he didn't tell me about.
And this was halfway across?
Yeah, we were 1,100 miles in, 900 to go. The nearest land was 3 miles away, but it was vertically down. So yeah, we were 900 miles from safety. So when we first saw that the rudder was not as it should be, and that we had a little bit of water ingress, it was concerning.
I bet. But you made it. Okay.
We made it, and then
so tell me,
when we were hauled out for the second time.
Where were you in Grenada?
In Grenada, so we went into, if you see St. George's and you zoom in on there, and you can start to see the beginnings of a marina there. That is Port Louis Marina.
Is that where you stayed?
So that's where we went into. That's where the Arc Plus rally finishes.
Okay.
And then to get hauled out along the south coast, there are 3 main boat yards. There's Spice Island Marine, Clark's Court.
Down here?
Yep. So if you look at, see where Le Fer Bleu is? Not True Blue, but keep going east.
Right here.
Okay. So go north, not into Fer Bleu, but just to the east. Yeah. Go opposite the Big Dipper restaurant, and there's Clark's Court Boatyard and Marina.
Oh, nice. Okay, this is a good tip.
Which is one of the, for insurance purposes, is considered hurricane safe.
Okay, yeah, right.
So this is where I hauled out to have the rudder repaired by an absolutely fantastic team of Palm Tree Marine, who are based at Clark's Court.
Okay. Good to know.
Everything took, because they closed down for Christmas, the boat had to be dried out. Then they had to do 17 layers of glassing on the boat.
Oh.
Then the copper coat had to be reapplied in the areas on the rudder and the skeg. So it wasn't until the end of the first week in February that the boat relaunched.
And when did you get there?
I got there mid-December.
Okay. And
so it was a bit of a frustrating couple of months, and not really how I'd hoped. That
did you stay there or did you fly home?
A little bit of both. Flew home initially, then came back to oversee the works going on. I'm very wary of leaving contractors alone. I mean, as it happened, the palm tree guys were unbelievable in the professionalism in the way they were treating the boat. But I have had bad experiences in the past of contractors left alone.
Oh yeah.
So I like to be there if any serious work is being done.
There's a lot of catamarans in here.
There are a lot of cats there, and in fact, where that white car is, that is exactly where my boat was parked up.
Oh, okay. Oh, so Hayden says a good yard, Clark's. We stored there for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. The only downside with Clark's Court is it is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there is nothing around there. There's one restaurant on site, but that is it's not the best place.
There's more over here.
Closes all day Sunday. It closes about 6 o'clock.
Ooh.
Had I got the dinghy in the water, then I would have been able to,
come
go
over
to
here.
Those areas that you're pointing out across the bay. But the dinghy, we were in a rush to get hauled out. She was still on the davits. So I was pretty much stuck there, living on the hard. A lot of mosquitoes and bugs there, which was not very pleasant.
So $1 million later.
Actually, you joke, but I was expecting the cost to be huge, and it wasn't.
Oh.
All of the work, including the lift out and the storage, came to less than 10,000 pounds sterling, which I thought was actually a bargain. Because normally anything with marine in it, I was expecting it to be at least twice that. Okay. And insurance covered a lot of it as well.
Nice.
As did the insurance cover my parasailer, because it wasn't damaged by wind, it was damaged by water. So I did have heavy deductibles on both, but it took a bit of a sting out of things.
Sure. Well, that's good news. Okay, so you made it back in February of, what year is this by now? 2000.
This year. We're now to 25, yeah. So
that's where your boat is now?
So the boat's there now. She's actually hauled out in Spice Island Marine for the hurricane season. Again, it's an insurance thing that the boats have to be below 12 degrees something. Otherwise, they're not insured.
Yes. I'm right in the middle of, I got a bullseye where I am for hurricanes. Yeah. But, okay. So what's the plan next?
Well, trying to work out what to do for the summer months. Back to the boat. Whether, in the future it's around the world. I mean, what I'd really like to do would be the high latitude challenge and go pole to pole. So I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's the latest Jimmy Cornell. It's not a rally as such, but boats leave from Cherbourg and they time to go down South America, down to the Antarctic Peninsula, and then head up via Hawaii to do the Northwest Passage before then heading back to via Greenland to Cherbourg to complete the trip around.
Okay.
So that would be a
Cold to
long-term goal.
And I interviewed some folks on here that they love that. They love ice and snow, and they sail to those destinations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is? I just love it. They love it.
To be honest, our Kyla isn't the boat for that.
Okay.
It would need to be an aluminium expedition boat.
Okay.
So maybe I'll go boat shopping in the summer months.
Okay, so I do have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, favorite country to sail to so far?
Oh, I liked Martinique in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It's got some beauty. It's got great food because it's French. Some lovely anchorages. It's got good marinas, good services there. I did like Martinique.
Okay. And Hayden says, I've interviewed SV Touche. It's a Island Packet 380, and they go from Svalbard to Cape Horn, and they talked about the butter melting. That's how I first heard it. Okay, so Martinique. We already talked about your favorite anchorage. Biggest storm.
Do you know I haven't been caught out in a huge storm.
Good answer.
I like to think that's because of my passage planning.
Sure.
I've been in force 8 winds, but I don't think I've had stronger than that. So yeah, I'm a virgin in that respect with regards to really heavy weather.
Okay, I have to ask. Force 8 winds? What is that?
I think force 8 is up to 40 knots.
Oh, you have been in that.
Yeah.
Well, that's challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's not officially storm force on the boat.
No, it's not hurricane strength, but goodness gracious. Okay.
I think they call it a near gale. I think force 8.
Yeah, it'll ruin your day. First thing you do at landfall after a crossing.
Oh, open a tin of beer.
Okay. Okay. Favorite sailing movie?
Ooh. I'll come back to that one. There's a few of them out there.
Night watch, coffee or Red Bull?
Do you know, I don't do either.
Ugh.
I have a bag of sweets, so sugar.
Sugar. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a coffee gal. Favorite snack on passage?
Oh, I mean, I eat what's given to me. I eat what's in the snack pack. So yeah, I don't have a favorite. It's whatever's in there.
Okay. Dream crew member, dead or alive?
Ooh. I'd like to cross with Elvis. I mean, wouldn't it be great? You've got entertainment. He'd have so many stories. It wouldn't really matter if he couldn't sail.
Best answer on the Salty podcast ever. Okay.
Other than my partner, of course.
Of course. Biggest fear at sea? I think I've heard a couple of them.
Waves.
Waves.
Yeah. It's not the wind. It's not wind that frightens me, but waves. No, actually, no. I changed my answer. It's lightning.
Okay.
Lightning scares the absolute god out of me.
Okay, it just occurred to me that we did not bring up the anchorage. That we were talking about that. awful lot.
That's true. We were chatting about that earlier. I think we said I will, although it changes daily, I will go for Chatham Bay on Union Island.
Here it is.
There it is. And
it's Grenada, or
no, this is St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
right. Okay.
It's the Southern Island. I had the best ever lobster from a little shack on the beach there.
Sunset
and it's very sad because the owners there, since the Hurricane Beryl blew through and pretty much laid waste to a lot of the Grenadines, and especially Union Island, the government have been withholding permission for what were wooden shacks to rebuild. They're currently in tents because they want to be able to sell the land off for hotel development there.
Yeah, that's sad.
It's really sad because it is such a beautiful area, and part of why I love it there is that it's just a beach and a couple of shacks.
Yeah. And I'm told by a lot of different sailors that there are a lot of places like this in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Places to pull in, but that is a shame. But they are still operating, but in a tent.
Yeah, they were there in a tent. It's amazing, how these people are pulling through after the storm. I was there it must have been April. I came through there, and we're now, so Beryl went through the previous June, and the local residents in Clifton Harbour, they're still living in tents. They're still relying on government food being brought in daily for them to have hot meals. But one thing that really does help is cruisers going in there and spending their dollars.
Right.
It's putting much needed money into the economy. And, you go in, if you would normally anchor, then take a buoy so that you give $20, just on taking a buoy. There are things that cruisers can do there to help just by being there and not being put off by the fact that it's still, a lot of destruction from the hurricane.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that would appeal to, I think that would appeal, even a tent would appeal to us cruisers,
Yeah.
Drew says fire at sea is his biggest fear. And then he wrote, I was working on a tug and we had a crankcase explosion and the bilge caught on fire. That would be frightening.
Yeah. Fire. There's not a lot you can do, is there, other than hope you can launch the life raft in time. If it's caught hold,
right.
There's only one outcome that's probably going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, our Kyla doesn't have lithium batteries, but that's the big scare these days, is that lithiums that haven't been installed properly.
Yeah.
Leave a hot fire risk.
Okay, so one thing you'd never sail without.
Ooh. GPS.
Okay. Of course.
I'm not into that whole sextant thing for me. No, if the GPS fails, I go to a second GPS.
And after that, you go to chart?
If GPS fails, I go to Galileo or Glasnost.
Okay. Okay. And like charts are the last on the
list? No, I still have paper charts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And let's see. Anchor down, first drink. What is it?
It's either going to be a beer or a gin and tonic. Or if it's in the Caribbean, it could be a painkiller.
Okay.
Probably a beer, because that will be cold in the fridge.
And that would be on your boat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Drew says, luckily we were faced up to a barge and we all got on it and let the tug go. It was hard to watch it burn. Yeah.
Yeah. Soul destroying.
Yeah. If not sailing, what would you be doing?
Skiing.
Skiing. Snow skiing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a quick answer.
Yeah. Either mountains or ocean for me.
That's right. You did say that. One word to describe sailing yacht or Kyla. One word.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. That's for sure. Sail changes at night. Love it or hate it?
I try not to. I mean, the last one I did was it destroyed my parasailer, so hate it. Yeah.
Okay. Best wildlife encounter, since you love wildlife.
Okay, this wasn't on our Kyla, and this was actually a non-sailing trip, but up in Alaska, and I was sea kayaking, and a pod of orca came by. And if I
we're
was
talking
to
about
do,
orcas again. So
yeah,
you were on a kayak?
on a sea kayak, and then my second answer to that would be at the other end of the earth in the Antarctic Peninsula, again sea kayaking, and a seal just came up right next to the kayak, so that was pretty special.
Did you have a camera with you?
I did.
Good, because we haven't mentioned this, but if you go to, is it your Instagram? You've got some beautiful pictures there of your boat. We just showed some of them. So you say you're a self-claimed amateur photographer. Most ridiculous boat superstition you've heard?
Well, okay, I'm going to say not having bananas on board. And the reason I say that is because when we left the Canaries, my crew said, we can't have bananas on board. Something will go wrong. Well, first we lost the parasailer. Then we got hit by a whale, which cracked the skeg. So maybe it's not so...
I always travel with bananas too. And I have had some things happen. I never attribute it to the bananas, though. Will you ever stop sailing?
Do you know, I think I'll get my ashes sprinkled off the stern of the boat.
Sweet. Okay. Last question. If you could leave the world with one sailing lesson, what would it be? Tip of the day.
Ooh, reef early.
Reef early. Yes.
Reef early.
And call for help early also.
Yeah, hopefully reefing early will negate the need to call for help.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? We've been on here an hour, and if anybody else would like to make some comments, we've had a few comments, which is nice. Please do. But is there any other final, your plans? What are your plans?
Well, I mean, not sure of the immediate plans, but you know that the dream would be that that pole to pole, you know, Northwest Passage, Antarctic Peninsula. I say when I went down to the Antarctic, it was on a Russian expedition boat, and I felt cheated because we had the Drake Lake. It was flat calm, going around Cape Horn and all the way across. So I geared myself up to be as sick as a dog for however many days it takes to get across, and it was just flat calm. So,
and most people would consider that a blessing, but you did not.
Well, it was a blessing, but I felt cheated. So
okay.
Maybe I'd like to go and do that in an expedition sailboat.
You wanted a good sea story.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so but after Grenada, you're going to Grenada. You're in the UK now.
So when the boat's refloated, get her back up through the Caribbean and then back across to Europe, I think.
Okay, so you're gonna go north. And when is that gonna be? When are you going back? You're still waiting for it at the end of hurricane season.
Yeah, end of hurricane season.
So maybe I'll see you down there. Are you gonna go to the Bahamas?
Yeah.
You're gonna go to Georgetown?
We'll I'll crack my beer and whatever you're cracking.
Okay. So Drew says, for a beginner buying a sailboat, what is a good price to start? at or a certain
Or,
boat to look for. Yeah, my first response is, how well are you at fixing things?
I mean, you can't answer that question as it is. You have to say what you want to do. And
Right.
my advice would be start small, buy a dinghy, learn the fundamentals of sailing in a dinghy, because it does seem that to me the best sailors are those who learned on dinghies, and then work your way up. Take some lessons.
Yeah, you could take some ASA
Charter,
101, 103, 104.
yeah. I mean, I did the RYA courses to
Right.
my yacht master, but charter boats to see what, and get on other people's boats before you buy one yourself, because
That's good advice.
a boat is, it's not a good financial investment. You
No.
know, no financial advisor will ever tell you to buy a boat. All it
Right.
is a vessel that you throw money at constantly.
Yeah, I actually did a podcast on this with a boat broker, and her first response was, "What do you want to do with it? Are you just going to
Yeah.
be day sailing? Are you going to be, going cruising?" So there's a lot of questions. So Drew, if you would like, I can hook you up with a good boat broker. There's actually another one on here. That's Island Spirit, SV Island Spirit. He's a boat broker, and if he's not available, I have another one in the Keys. Where are you, Drew? But you could
And the other
spend.
thing is to work out if you like sailing, and if your partner, if you have a partner, if
Yeah.
he or she likes sailing. Because if they don't, then your dreams could come apart very quickly, and you could have a very expensive bit of kit on your hands that you really
That's
wish
true.
you didn't have.
It seems like it's always the men trying to get the women to go, and in my case, it was the other way around. But there's a lot of men out there wishing they had a woman that would go like Island Spirit. They're a sailing couple, and they both love it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to find that a partner.
When you get one, hold on to him or her.
Right, right. Drew, if you want to know more, I will hook you up with the right people. Email me at saltyabandon@gmail. Oh, wait, it looks like he responded. I'm in Florida. What part of Florida? I got people I'll send you to. Florida's a big place. But email me at saltyabandon@gmail, and I will steer you in the right direction to start your search. So, okay, well, if anybody wants to follow James, you're on Instagram at Sailing Arkyla.
Sailing Kyla, yeah.
At Sailing Arkyla on Instagram.
Or the website where all the cruising stories are fully laid out is www.sailingarkyla.com.
I'm going to put that up here. Make sure I spell it right. And then on Instagram, it's at Sailing Arkyla. Okay. There it is. We'll have to see. Now, so you're going back at the end of hurricane season, correct?
Let's see what happens.
Okay. Oh, so he's in the Tampa area. Cool. Okay, so email me, Drew. We'll talk. We'll chat. Okay, well, James, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I want to stay in touch with you, and I might even see you down there, and maybe even interview again after you've gone through the whole Caribbean. You probably have some good sea stories. Hopefully, it won't be expensive ones.
Every story with a boat is expensive.
I know.
One way or another.
Are you pretty good at fixing things yourself?
Certainly the last few years I've got a lot better.
Yeah.
When you start doing ocean passages is when you start to really learn your boat, I think. I have literally unscrewed every single panel in the boat to see where everything is, how it can be fixed.
And did you do your walk-arounds every day when you were out at sea?
Yeah, very important. I mean, on doing that, one of the things I found that my general lines were almost chafed fully through. So
Wow.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So you looked at everything.
There's no worse thing to find than a split pin ring on the deck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I was Sailing Phoenix. By the way, I'll be interviewing Sailing Phoenix at 7 p.m. Central. He's in Hawaii. It'll be 2 p.m. Hawaii time. So if you guys want to, I'm doing 2 today. So come back at 7 p.m. Central and I'll be here with Sailing Phoenix, who has just skyrocketed viral. He's become so viral. He now has 2 million followers on Instagram. And he talked about that. He would find all kinds of things. But anyway, thank you so much, James. It's a pleasure talking with you.
Thank
And
you.
I will see you again soon.
We'll see you in the Caribbean somewhere.
Sounds good.